Hello, you guys. Okay, I am so excited to come in here with our monthly assignment for March. So, from the sounds of things, it seems like a lot of you guys are struggling with your nutrition and staying on track. And it seems like you do well for a couple of days and then you sort of start to fall off the wagon. Something happens, you're invited out, your child has a birthday party, and you end up eating the cake, and then you fall off the wagon for a couple of days, and then you decide to get back on track. You do really good, you're feeling good, you're proud of yourself, and then maybe the weekend hits and you guys order pizza for dinner, and then you fall off track for a couple of days, and then you get back on track. What we want to avoid is exactly that. This is a lifestyle. We need to start figuring out where our triggers are and what we can do about them. So this video, this tool that I'm going to give you guys is very much, it's for me too, because I am not perfect. I'll never pretend that I don't have triggers, that I don't fall off the wagon, that I don't binge, because it happens. That is why I do what I do. That is why I am a coach, because it keeps me on track and it keeps me accountable to continue to be better at this. So I have uploaded into the files section something called a trigger tracker. I want you all to go out and print several copies of this. You will need one per day. Print out enough for 1 week. I want you guys to commit to using this for 1 full week starting tomorrow, and then maybe print out like a few extra copies to use for the remainder of the month. After the first week, I don't think that you're gonna need one a day. I hope you won't need one a day, but I think that this is so important for us to even put up on our fridge and just constantly be looking at and being really, really aware of it. So this is very straightforward, but you are going to put the date, which day of the week it is, and that's really important to note what day of the week it is, because maybe you'll notice that on like Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, you don't really have any triggers. Maybe there's just very few triggers, but then all of a sudden Thursday, Friday, Saturday comes along and your trigger worksheet is a lot more full. That is something to be aware of. So I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I mentioned it. By tracking your food and your emotions, you can identify negative patterns and then you can make healthier choices. I'm going to repeat that. By tracking your food and emotions, you can identify negative patterns and then you can make healthier choices. So that is what we are doing with this. We are trying to figure out, why is it that I can be good for several days and then I fall off track? Like, what is happening? Because guess what? Something is happening. I talked about this on the last video I did. We know what to do. Being healthy, nutrition, it's simple. It's easy. We are all smart humans. We know what we should be eating. We know we need fruits. We know we need veggies. We know we need protein. We need healthy fats. We know that, French fries from McDonald's isn't a good choice. We know that having sweet potatoes has more nutrients. We know we should stay away from processed foods and sugary packaged snacks. We know that stuff. That's not hard. That is simple. But what is hard is our emotions. It's dealing with our emotions and changing our mindset when it comes to the nutrition. That is what is hard. Eating healthy isn't hard. It's the mindset and the emotions behind it. This is going to help us so much. So you are also going to put in your wake up time and your bedtime. That is very important to note because the quality of your sleep can be having a huge impact on how well you are staying on track with your nutrition. If you are constantly staying up too late, or maybe like having really inconsistent sleep, like one night you get 4 hours of sleep, one night you get 10 hours of sleep, one night you're staying up till midnight, and then the next night you're so tired so you go to bed at 8:30. During the week you're getting up at 5 a.m. and then on weekends you're sleeping till 9:30 a.m. That's inconsistency, and your body doesn't do well with that. Either does your emotions and your hormones, which could lead you to falling off the wagon so much more likely. So what we are going to do with this. So there's 6 different columns. One column is what I ate and how much. So this is not a tracker where you are putting in everything that you eat in a day. This is a tracker for you putting in things that maybe weren't part of your plan. So I don't want to say like cheats, but just things that you weren't intending to have, but that you just kind of like all of a sudden found yourself eating. So for instance, I just had my breakfast. I had scrambled eggs and roasted veggies and sweet potatoes. So I'm not going to write that down because there was no trigger behind that. That was my breakfast. I had already wrote it down on my meal plan for the day. I knew I was going to have it. I ate it, no big deal. But let's say this afternoon after I have my lunch, and all of a sudden I find myself in the pantry and I grab a handful of chocolate chips, which I've been known to do. That is something I want to write down. So that is what I would write down in this column. Or maybe I am making my shake and I'm putting a little teaspoon of nut butter in my shake and I grab a spoon and eat a spoonful of nut butter. That's going to go on the sheet. Or tonight, I find myself sitting on the couch and I'm back in the pantry and all of a sudden I have taken like 4 baby cookies, like arrowroot cookies, which I love. And I'm dipping them in peanut butter all of a sudden, which I love. Now I'm giving you guys really bad ideas. That is something I'm going to write down. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not going to write down like my healthy supper, my healthy lunch, but maybe if I go out to eat and I had intentions of getting like the grilled chicken salad and instead all of a sudden I find myself in like fettuccine Alfredo, I might put that down because why did I end up choosing that when I wasn't going to choose that? So I hope that makes sense. So then what event or emotion was happening before I ate it? What was going on? What led me to grabbing that handful of chocolate chips in the pantry? What led me to changing what I was going to order at the restaurant? What led me to grabbing those crackers at bedtime and eating them on the couch? What led me to scooping out a heaping spoonful of peanut butter while I was making my shake? So be really, really aware of that column. What was happening? Was it that I was tired? Was it that I was like feeling angry? I find one of my triggers is my children. So if my children are like screaming and misbehaving and not listening to me, sometimes I find myself like mindlessly shoving food in my mouth. I have no idea why, but that's a trigger for me that I'm going to try to dig into a little bit more. And then what time was it? What time are these triggers happening for you? For me, like I'm good until like mid-afternoon and then something shifts in me and I start to feel like, okay, I want those chocolate chips now. I want the peanut butter. I want something that I shouldn't have. But all morning, I'm fine. Maybe you're the other way around. Maybe yours is like late at night or in the morning or like at lunch, you end up having like some triggers happening. So being aware of what time your triggers are happening, because if you can find consistency and you can find a pattern, like, wow, every night this week at like 8:30, I found myself eating something. Like you can start to connect the dots. And then the hunger scale before eating. So were you hungry or were you not hungry at all? That's really important to know because if you are legit hungry, that might be why you ended up binging or you ended up ordering the fettuccine Alfredo when you were going to have the grilled chicken salad is because you didn't eat enough food earlier in the day. And then all of a sudden you got to the restaurant and you were like, holy hell, I am so hungry. I want to eat everything. And that led you to make a poor choice. So was it just because you didn't fuel your body properly earlier in the day? This happens to me when I work a shift and I don't get in my breaks. I come home from work and I'm starving. And if my husband and kids had pizza and it's still sitting out on the counter, before I've even like realized it, I'm eating 2 pieces of pizza. So it happens, but being aware of why it happened. And if you weren't hungry, and you ate the food, like that's a concern because you didn't need the food. So what was going on that led you to eat when you weren't even hungry? Satisfaction after eating. Were you still hungry after you had this treat? Were you fueled just right or were you way too full? There's nothing wrong with having a treat. There's nothing wrong with grabbing a few chocolate chips out of the pantry. Like, I'm never going to say don't do that stuff. There's nothing wrong with, like, in the summer, me getting on my bike with the kids and going and getting ice cream at our little local ice cream parlor. There's nothing wrong with that. But after I ate that ice cream, was I way too full? Well, I can tell you probably yes, because you know what ends up happening is I eat my ice cream and I don't order a kitty size. I order like a regular large size because I love ice cream. And then my 4-year-old never finishes his, so I eat his. And, maybe one of the other kids doesn't quite finish their cone. I end up eating their cone. So no, that was not a good choice. If I had been satisfied and felt just right after having my small cone, perfect, not a big deal. But did I continue to make bad choices with that ice cream? Then that is kind of a problem. How I felt emotionally after eating. This is a big one. So I just have to have some coffee. So, like I said, having the chocolate chips, like feeling like you just need a little like something, you just like feel like, oh, I just want a few chocolate chips. No big deal if you can stick with the few chocolate chips. But how are you feeling emotionally now? Are you all of a sudden thinking, oh crap, well I had a little handful of chocolate chips. Now I kind of want to have more. So then you go back and you have a little bit more and then you're like, oh, I can't believe I've just like eaten a bunch of chocolate chips now. Well, I might as well get the baby cookies and dip them in peanut butter. And now you've dipped like 5 baby cookies in peanut butter. Just don't try it because it's so good. So don't try it. And then you've eaten those. And then you're like, oh my God, why did I do that? I did so good all day and now I've just gone and done this. And then you go back into the pantry and you see the chips at the top and you just start like eating handfuls of chips and you're like feeling like a loser. And why did I do this? I'm so disgusting. I can never stick to anything. I'll never get to my goal weight. I'll never have control of my nutrition. And you wallow in your self-pity as you're shoving chips into your mouth. I say these things, guys, because I've done them, okay? This is not me projecting out onto you guys. It's because I've been there, done that, and I am trying to get better. So how did it leave you feeling emotionally? More often than not for me, when I stray from my plan, I just don't have a lot of control with it. So I have to be really, really cautious of how much wiggle room I can give myself. Having like going out for dinner and eating like a nice healthy meal and then splitting a dessert with someone, how does that leave you feeling? Are you fine? Was that good enough? And you're like, oh, that was so good. Like I enjoyed that so much. That's not falling off track. That is being intentional about having a treat. But then if you go home and then you start pouring yourself a few glasses of wine because you're like, oh, I had the dessert, might as well drink now. And then you go get the chips out and then you're eating handfuls of chips. We can see that that's not healthy, right? It wasn't that the dessert itself was a problem. It was the emotions behind having that dessert that ends up being the problem. All right, so I hope that's helpful. And then of course, there's just some things down here about like, what did you learn about what you ate today? And can you identify things that trigger you to eat and what can you do about them? So being really aware of your patterns is going to help you so much in order to start to correct them. I'm just looking at my notes here so I don't miss anything. I wrote down food shouldn't make us feel bad. And I think that's so important to note. So that goes back to like our, how we felt emotionally. Food shouldn't make us feel bad in so many ways. It shouldn't make us feel bloated. It shouldn't make us feel sick to our stomach. It shouldn't make us feel guilty. It shouldn't make us feel fulfilled. Like it shouldn't have these big emotions tied to it, and it shouldn't ever make us feel bad. So if that is happening, you need to really look at what else is going on. What led you to eat that food? Why did you eat that food? Why are you feeling that way? And start to think, okay, how can I start to change this? How can I start to change my patterns? Because you have control over food, and we're going to get control over our food. Food does not control us. Food does not control our emotions. We control our emotions. Okay, just making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. And now the other thing that I'll mention, and I did mention this before, I guess I don't need to keep holding this up. Like I have a sign up here. Like if you are struggling with certain foods, and I know a lot of you guys are, you're like, oh yeah, I had the chips last night and the cookies and this and that. Guys, get it out of your house. Like you have to get it out of your house. I don't care if your husband loves to have chips every night. I don't care if your kids think they need to eat cookies all day long. If you are struggling right now with that, then you need to be open and honest with your family and say, guys, I'm sorry, but for the next couple of weeks, we can't have this stuff in the house. If your husband wants to buy it and keep it in his car or eat it at work, that's fine. If you want to buy little like snack packs of things for your kids for their lunches, fine, do that. But you need to be in control. My guess is that you buy the groceries the most of the time. Like I'm just going to assume that. So why are you putting 4 bags of chips in your grocery cart? Why are you buying the cookies? Why are you buying the ice cream? Get really intentional about this stuff, because if it's in your house, you're going to eat it until you start to really get in control of your emotions and your triggers, which is going to take time. You shouldn't be able, like I can't be trusted with certain foods in my house. One of them, Nutella. My kids are always wanting Nutella. I can't be trusted with Nutella. I'll eat it out of the jar. I'll eat the entire jar. They just know. They're like, I wish we could have Nutella. I'm like, sorry kids, we can't have Nutella. Go to grandma's. Another thing, ice cream. I can't keep ice cream in the house. I just can't. So if we want ice cream, we go out for ice cream. We make it like a fun thing. Sometimes in the summer, we're going up for ice cream once a week, but we don't keep it in the house. And my kids know like, oh yeah, we can't have ice cream in the house because mom will eat it all. Like it's just a known fact. So we go out for ice cream as a family and we treat ourselves and then come home and it's not in the house. So you have to take full control and full responsibility for your food choices. So get it out of the house, all right? Okay, so just to recap, print this out. We are starting tomorrow. You are going to share your trigger tracker. Yes?
This was on the back of it.
I'm sorry, guys. Okay.
And I was on the front,
Okay.
and then I went down there, and then Sam tried to push me back down there.
Okay, I'll be done in a second. So print this out. We're going to start using it tomorrow. I want to see your trigger trackers daily posted in there. If you have questions, comment below. I think this is going to help us all. It's going to be uncomfortable because sometimes we don't want to, in my bedroom, sometimes we don't want to admit our triggers. We don't want to admit that, like, oh yeah, last night I ate an entire bag of chocolate chips. Like, whoops. We don't want to admit that out loud, okay? But in order for us to move forward and to correct some of these habits and to make this a lifestyle that we can be proud of, we have to admit it and we have to do the dirty work. We have to push through the suck. We have to do the uncomfortable things. So who is with me? Who is still listening to this video? Holy crap. Okay, bye guys.